Mark Hughes has today been a Bradford City manager for over a year now. Well, bang on a year, that's why we're doing the video. Let me know your thoughts on him so far over his time at Bradford City. Do you think there's definitely room for improvement? But do you think we just need to stick with him no matter what happens this season? What happens if we just come in the playoffs? What happens if we don't go up? But at this current moment in time, Mark Hughes keeps saying, and I agree with him, I do think we are in a very good position in the league to take advantage, move up the table, and get some more points on the board. He did talk about being in a comfortable position, so I do agree with him on that. And he did say there's room for improvement, and I agree with him on that as well. He said he don't think he's done a bad job. He's excited. He never thought we'd be running away with the league. I think maybe in the back of his mind he might have been thinking that. And he said we're in a good position and he's really enjoying it here. And he went on to say other stuff like, he don't have an ego, so he didn't think too much about ruining his legacy, dropping down to League Two. We wanted to get back into this management. He just wanted to get that. I remember last year we talked about getting the adrenaline back on a Saturday. So I think he's enjoying it. I think he's obviously enjoying the ride. He wanted to get back into football in any way. And yeah, but in terms of Bradford City, obviously he's the longest serving manager in charge since 2017 under Stuart McCall, and that says everything about the club. How they haven't been a structure, how there's no direction, no stability, no real backing of a manager. I think this transfer window, and since Mark Hughes has come, we've definitely backed him in terms of bringing in the players he wants, bringing in a head of recruitment like Stephen Gent. I think the hands-on approach from Mark Hughes has been proven by the appointment of Stephen Gent. The players we brought in the summer through him being the head of recruitment, Smallwood, Clayton, Chapman, other players who obviously Stephen Gent's worked with before and knows a lot about, and Mark Hughes obviously has agreed that he wants them to come in. There's other players as well who obviously them two have had a massive say on, and I do like how hands-on Mark Hughes is and how much attention to detail he gives. I remember on a podcast, Ryan Sparks were talking about the attention to detail Mark Hughes, provides compared to the previous managers. Derek Adams and Stuart McCall and maybe Mark Truman and Connor Sellers, who Ryan Sparks has worked with, but we know, that the managers have been here before Ryan Sparks and don't give as much attention to detail. In the press conference, they were talking about the pitch, and that's what Sparks hinted on as well. How he likes the pitch to be a certain way. And they were talking about how the pitch can affect injuries at this time of the season as well, with with the transition of the pitch turning harder and it being softer, and all that. I'm not into pitches, but yeah, he's very much a manager who's attention to detail, and that comes with his experience at the high level playing and managing there. And he has given us that we haven't had before, and like I said, the stability, the direction, the plan, and the structure in place from him and Ryan Sparks. The club does seem more aligned, a bit more together, and that's not from the boardroom as well and onto the playing pitch, but also the fans do seem a bit closer. We were saying that in the summer. I think obviously we are in the position we want to be. We don't want to be eighth. We don't want to be just outside the playoffs. We don't want to finish just inside the playoffs. We want to be comfortably in the playoffs and fighting for promotion. Automatics. That's the standards we wanted to be set at the beginning of the transfer window. At the beginning of the season, sorry, after an impressive transfer window and Mark Hughes being manager. But it is the first season. He's had to adapt. The playing style. He's had to adapt. He's probably had to adapt his own personal way of managing. So it's the first season. So I think if we come into playoffs, it's a success. In a success. I say those words in a success. But it's an improvement and it's progression, and I think that's what we can take from Mark Hughes. But he has given us an improvement and a progression, not only from the way we're playing on the pitch, but also the results we're getting on the pitch. When he took over, we were 14 for 40 points after 33 games played. We are now 8th with 48 points, playing 3 less games. We've only played 30. The home form definitely needs to be improved. That's something he hasn't improved. That stayed the same. We're inconsistent at home, we're poor at home, and we're probably losing more than we're winning at home, and we've drawn too many. We still aren't making the most of our fantastic stadium at this level and our fantastic support that we continuously show. We have 4,000 fans going tomorrow, and hopefully it's a great atmosphere, and hopefully the players can bounce off that, which they haven't done this season, and players past and done that. But he did say he has been excited, and he is excited to be the manager. And he does feel like we're in a good position. He said that for quite a few weeks now, but we're in a good position to sustain ourselves in the playoffs and to make a push for the top three. And I think we were definitely before that Barrow defeat. I would agree with him with that, but we are in a decent position, and we have improved. He's managed 50 games now. That the 50 mark is up. He's won 20 games, drawn 12 and lost 18. So obviously that carried through from last season as well, when he had to put up with a very poor squad that one is. I mean, I think the football were probably better last season to reflect on that. I think obviously we were playing probably better with worse players. When you look at the players who probably weren't good enough to be starting week in, week out, you had Bass in goal who just weren't good enough. Especially compared to Harry Lewis. We had Songo, Luke Hendry and Frelkeld and Finkus and Dawson as the right backs. Fulton Ryder, I don't believe is good enough, and they're still on the books, like the right backs we've got at the club as well. Paddy O'Connor, he had very good games in him, but he had a mistake in him. Obviously, Critchlow's a lot better. I obviously think that, and I think he's got more potential, and we've got no chance of getting him again next season. So that's where we have to look towards next season as well. Maybe that's why Stubbs has come in, and maybe Hughes can see him starting next season with Platt, but I don't think he's good enough. But he has given us that experience. When you look at the midfield too, Gilliard, Watt, I think on the day they're good, but when you've got Clayton in there, I'd rather have Clayton than Watt any day. The forward areas, I think they're where we were really good last season, and that's where we haven't hit the heights this season as where we were last season under Hughes. Pereira, Walker and Vernon and either Cook or Angle, the movement of that front three behind the striker was unbelievable. They'd rotate positions, they were 1-2s, they were twisting and turning, they had the game in the palms of their hands, and that's something we haven't improved on this season. Obviously Walker's been injured a lot. Pereira hasn't hit the heights by any means. It has been poor. I'd like to see him get another run in the team though, and Vernon obviously left, and Tariq Wright went as well, which disrupted that. The only real player who's consistently looked good in that front three behind the striker when we played with that, it has been Scott Banks. So and he's had his injuries recently as well. So last season's football probably better. Beginning of the season we were too slow. The tempo was slow. The intensity was slow. And we were just getting by results, and Andy Cook were feeding off scraps. Let's be honest, they were getting the goals, but the chances weren't being created for him. Whereas now, hopefully, we learn from that Barrow defeat, and we learn from the games we scraped through on by Stevenage and Tranmere, and we actually, increase the tempo. We've got to start games quicker and continue that. We've got to be a bit more direct and on the front foot. I like possession-based football, and I like playing out from the back, but if it's not effective, then what's the point in doing it? And I think teams like Doncaster tomorrow are going to look to counteract our way of playing, and are going to be on us from the offside. I think when you look at that Stockport game towards the beginning of the season, they set up a way where they're going to counteract, and really press us from the off and not let us have a chance. We struggle against teams who press us when we're trying to play out from the back. So that's something Hughes has to adapt from and learn from, not to overplay and to playing the opposition half more. And there needs to be more of a movement in the midfield areas, more 1-2s going on. We're too slow. The tempo's too slow. That were from the beginning of the season to Boxing Day. That defeat to Carlisle inspired a change to a diamond and more direct, quicker tempo, quicker intensity. And we got a couple of wins off that, and then Rochdale was settled back into playing slow, whether that were because they were on a bad run and we thought we could just dominate possession and tire them out. That didn't happen, and then it carried through to Stockport, Wimbledon and Mansfield, and then Stevenage, but then we had to change it up against them. Then it carried through to Tranmere and Barrow, and now there's a bit of negativity again, but that's on Hughes. He's got to change it up. So I won't say he's been stubborn. I think obviously some of it's been a bit of an annoyance to the fans and probably a few players as well. But some of the favourites have been continuously being selected. I don't think it's stubborn. There's another maybe a reluctancy to drop maybe Smallwood for East when East has had some really good games. So yeah, I think to reflect on the year, we've made a lot of progression. We've gone from a lower table team to a team that's fighting for the playoffs. But when Hughes got backed in the summer, we were expecting automatics. But there's still 16 games to go, and I do think that we can mount pressure on those automatic places. We need stability. Mark Hughes is the right man. We're not going to bring in anyone better than Mark Hughes. No one more experienced than Mark Hughes at the higher level. And no one, like I say, who has so much attention to detail than Mark Hughes. And no one who the players will probably listen to more. I think the players will learn so much from him. I think one of the disappointments this season has been, Jake Young not really being developed, not really had a run in the team, then being loaned down for a player like Costello, who's just a Burnley youth player. Under Mark Hughes, you think he'd learn a bit, but we'll have to see what happens from now to the end of the season. But it's been an interesting first year. It's been an exciting first year, and hopefully we have another year of Mark Hughes of progression. And like I say, if we don't go up this season and we finish in the playoffs, that's an okay season. We've progressed, but then it's all next season to go up, and then that's where the pressure comes on Mark Hughes. But with that first season of experience at League Two level, I think would be good for this following season. So let me know your thoughts on Mark Hughes' his first year in charge at Bradford in the comments down below. Have a good one.